Hello, welcome back to my kitchen. It's been a minute, but in that time I've, rested, relaxed, cleared my mind, thought of new ideas. And by new ideas, I mean after having a discussion with my mom while I was back home for Christmas, it was like, well, why don't you just make the dud December stuff, but with like good recipes and see how that goes. So definitely something new and unique being redoing what I just did. I hope you enjoy it. Tonight, I'm going to be doing a remake of the, no bake, chocolate covered 5-ingredient brownies. And tonight's recipe is going to be a vegan, no bake, chocolate cheesecake bars. That's it, it's a big old name. However, I am the one concern I have, because the images look great and it has way more ingredients than 5, but it does a similar pitfall where, like the previous one called it brownies. This one's using the word cheesecake, and there's not really anything vegan cheese, cream cheese related in it. So I'm curious how it's gonna become cheesecake. But I'll keep an open mind. Hopefully I do the recipe correctly, because that is the other thing. When I'm trying to make the better recipe, I'm still making it. So if I mess it up, it's the recipe's fault. And I don't think there is anything else that I need to tell you. I've kind of done the intro. Hopefully everybody had a good Christmas or just break from life. I don't know. But I did some work around the house, which you will not see any of, but, well, actually, I shouldn't say I did, me and my dad. Some of it, only him. I did all of the crawling around in the attic. So that was, I'll put an image of me in the attic here. The 6'5" guy in a tiny attic does not mix well. That being said, let's run through the ingredients and then we'll get into cooking. Well, is it cooking if there's no baking? We'll get into assembling. We'll get into something. Almonds, coconut, dates, cocoa powder, salt, coconut oil, vanilla, maple syrup, oat milk, and dark chocolate. The first step is kind of a prep step. It is a little different from the original recipe that we did, where in this one it does use dates, but these dates will be soaked in lukewarm water, but we also will have almonds in this, and those will be soaked in boiling water. So you're gonna have to have 2 different water temperatures there. And just kind of be mindful, there are the soaked almonds that we will be kind of prepping right now, but there's also dry almonds. So when you're doing the recipe, make sure you keep those distinct and you don't accidentally use the soaked almonds where you should be using dry almonds, or vice versa. So yeah, so just pour some water over top of dates and then almonds, you're good to go. The next step is to take the dry almonds and we're gonna blend them with the coconut for about a minute in a food processor. Now we're gonna add the rest of the crust ingredients to the food processor and then blend until you get like a sticky dough. And now we're going to take that sticky dough that we just blended up and we're going to put it in a 9x9 dish, and then, well, lined with parchment paper, because that just makes life easier when you have to pull it out later. And then we're going to evenly kind of spread out the dough and then pop that in the fridge while we prepare the filling. Now for the filling, we're just going to put all the ingredients in the food processor and blend that up until it is what I think thick, smooth and creamy. Or no, it said no lumps, which I guess is essentially smooth. So just throw all that in there, turn it on, wait until it's those adjectives. So here's where the Aaron factor comes into play, like I mentioned earlier, of will the recipe shine on its own merit, or will I shoot myself in the foot and then blame the recipe for being bad? Like the previous step, two things happened. The first was I ran out of maple syrup, and so it is no longer vegan because I just supplemented with honey, because I feel like those are close enough. And the other thing was I used the food processor because in my head I was like blending it like everything else that I've just previously done, but I think it meant like a full-on blender. So it didn't quite get as like smooth as it had talked. Like I think the almonds were still a little bit chunky in there. And so off camera, I just threw it in my Ninja Bullet because it's a small enough amount of liquid, and then just kind of blended that, which granted, I was letting that go for a while because I thought it was gonna kind of thicken up a little bit, and it still remained pretty liquidy. So I'm kind of concerned on that part. Well, to be fair, like I don't really know what would have gone in there to make it thicken up, because the image that they have looks like kind of like a mousse almost. But maybe that will happen from freezing it later on. I don't know, but I'm just kind of warning you, I might have goofed up. Anywho, now it's time to pour the filling on top of the crust, and then we're gonna put that in the freezer for 30 minutes. Oh, and also, before you put it in the freezer, tap it to relieve any air bubbles that are in the liquid. So just kind of give a little tap, a little shake, get those air bubbles out, and then put it in the freezer. So you might be asking yourself, Aaron, I'm pretty sure you weren't wearing that shirt before, and that can of olive oil definitely wasn't there before. And to that, you are correct. If you notice that or any other differences, you are very observant, because this is about 3 days later, and I'm filming 3 days later because kind of two factors. The filling was a total failure. It did not set. It was still a liquid, even though I followed the instructions to put it in the freezer for 30 minutes. The other bigger issue, which kind of compelled me to do this, was that the mic didn't pick up audio. So, and I'm currently editing, and it bothered me a lot. But in those 3 days, I left it in the freezer, and it has now set because it's frozen. And so I cut off a little bit, and I can now taste test it, and we can judge it accordingly. However, it is already turning back into a liquid. So this is not an actual solution. The recipe is still a failure, but I can kind of more accurately judge than I previously did, because it was, it wasn't great. I was losing it a little bit. But let's try this and see how it is. How to describe this? So first off, extremely cold. Biting through that, like if you have at all sensitive teeth, it is not going to be a pleasant experience for you. So that was kind of like the first part, because you're just kind of like biting into it. However, I will say that the filling could be, well, it's not vegan because I used the honey, but if you follow the actual recipe and use maple syrup fully, it could be kind of like a vegan ice cream almost. Like if you just kind of froze that and scooped it out, I feel like it has that right consistency to do that. The crust, on the other hand, like it's not terrible. It's a little bland, and I feel like it's just like lacking something. Okay, so what might be good would be like the Nanaimo bars if you made like that like bottom layer and then put this filling like on top, that probably would be pretty good. And if it actually set and didn't have to be frozen, that would like be extra good. I mean, it's very different from the kind of like the original recipe that I'm like making it better on. And also the fact that this kind of failed makes it hard to compare the two. But like this has more complexity to it. But I feel like that peanut butter in the other one did a lot of heavy lifting because peanut butter is just delicious. So maybe putting some peanut butter in the crust on this one might kind of just steal a little bit and like bump it up a little. Overall, not terrible. I feel like if you do it correctly, it'll probably be a lot better than what I'm experiencing. But overall, not the worst thing in the world. And I think I'll be able to do some, pictures out of all this, because if I just keep them kind of frozen, I can take it out and quickly drizzle some chocolate on, snap a picture, and then be like, there we go. So I fooled you. To get to this point, you probably saw a thumbnail of something that is not at all real. Welcome to the internet. And on that note, bye mom, still not dead. See ya.